Okay, so we've all seen those lists of dating red flags, right? But let's be honest. When you're in the moment and you really like someone, it's amazing how fast those bright red flags can start to look kind of beige. You start second guessing everything.
You know that little voice in your head going, is this a big deal or am I just overthinking things again? That exact feeling of confusion is why just making another list isn't really going to help. So today, we're not just listing flags. We're going to build a solid framework so you can actually see things clearly. And we'll start with the absolute basics.
First things first, before we can dive into the 10 big ones, we all need to be on the same page. What even is a red flag, really? Because if we don't have a clear definition, it's way too easy to label every tiny annoyance as a deal breaker, and that's not helpful for anybody.
Now look really closely at these words here. The magic is in phrases like potential and may lead. See, a red flag isn't a giant stop sign. It's more like the check engine light on your car's dashboard. It doesn't mean the car's about to explode, but it definitely means you need to pull over and see what's going on under the hood before you keep driving.
So, why do we even need to pay attention to these check engine lights? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. It saves you time, it saves you a ton of heartache, and most importantly, it gives you the power to make a smart, informed choice. It's all about building a relationship that actually works for you, not just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. Okay, now for what I think is maybe the most crucial part of this entire conversation. You have to understand that not all red flags are created equal. In fact, they really fall into two completely different buckets. On one side, you have the universal deal breakers, things like abuse, constant lying, cheating. These are red flags for literally everyone, no debate. But then you've got the personal ones, and these are just as important. For example, maybe for you, someone who's always late is a huge red flag because it feels disrespectful. But for your best friend, it's just a funny quirk. Knowing your personal red flags is the absolute key to finding a partner who's right for you.
All right, now that we have that essential framework down, let's dive into the 10 specific red flags that you might be missing.
Kicking it off with number 1. This is a classic, and it's so easy to get caught up in. This is that classic hot and cold thing. You know what I'm talking about. One minute, they're super into you, making all these plans, and the next, they're distant, barely responding. We can call this person an extractor. They basically pull energy and validation from you, but they rarely, if ever, give it back. I love this phone charger analogy. It's just perfect. They use you to recharge their own ego, and then as soon as their battery is full, they unplug and go on with their day. The goal for you isn't to become a better charger. It's to stop letting them plug into you in the first place.
All right, let's move on to number 2. Now, this one can feel absolutely incredible at first, which is exactly what makes it so dangerous. This is the too good to be true red flag. All of a sudden, you've met someone who loves that same obscure band you do, has the exact same dreams for the future, and agrees with every single thing you say. It feels like magic, right? But sometimes it's a carefully crafted illusion. So the big question is, how do you see past this mask? Well, here's a great pro tip. Just watch how they act around their family and their oldest friends. They can't keep that performance up in their natural habitat. That's when you get to see who they really are. Okay, up next, number 3. This is a tactic that so many people fall for without even realizing it. This is the ultimate blame shift. You bring up a totally valid concern, and somehow, by the end of the conversation, you're the one apologizing. They make you feel guilty for their behavior. It's a classic sign of someone who just can't take responsibility, so they trick you into carrying it for them. Number 4 is one of the trickiest ones on the whole list. This is one of the absolute sneakiest red flags out there because it happens so subtly. It never starts with a direct command. It starts with little comments, little suggestions. It always starts small. Maybe you complain about a friend, and your partner says something like, she doesn't seem like a very good friend to me. Maybe you should spend less time with her. At first, it sounds like they're just looking out for you. But over time, all these little comments start to build a wall between you and your support system until they're the only one left. It's an incredibly subtle but powerful form of control. All right, let's fire through the next few. Number 5, they're always too busy. Look, if they consistently can't find a minute for you, you're just not a priority, period. 6, you've become their free therapist. A relationship is a two-way street, not just an emotional dumping ground for them. 7, the impressive career but unimpressive partner. Don't let a fancy job title blind you to the fact that they're just not a good person. 8, love bombing. This is that over-the-top, too much too soon kind of romance. Real love is a slow-burning fire, not a 3-day fireworks show. And finally, number 9, the superiority complex.
This quote just says it all, doesn't it? A real partnership is built on equality and mutual respect. If someone genuinely thinks they're better than you, they don't want a partner, they want an audience.
And that brings us to our final red flag, and this one is just as sneaky as the others.
This is when the person you're dating has no clear goals, no ambition, no real sense of where their life is headed. And you might think, well, that's their problem, not mine. But trust me, it will be.
Just think about that for a second. If they have no idea where they're going in life, how can they possibly know if you're the right person to take on that journey? They've got to have their own map before they can ask you to join them.
So there you have it, 10 major red flags. But before we wrap this up, there is one last really crucial point I want to make about how you should think about all this.
It is so tempting to just slap a label on someone, right? To call them a narcissist or toxic. But honestly, those labels can be a huge distraction. Instead of trying to be an armchair psychologist, just focus on the behavior. Are they isolating you? Are they mirroring? Are they playing the victim? The actions are what really matters, not some diagnosis you found online.
Okay, so to make all of this truly useful for you, it's time to turn that lens back on yourself. So I'm going to leave you with this question. Look back at your past and be really honest with yourself. Which one of these red flags do you consistently let slide? Because identifying that pattern in yourself, that is the first and by far the most important step to finally breaking it.